Well, hello everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, or on the Facebook page, this is what we call Full Course Yellow. It's a Thursday night chat where myself and a few friends get together to talk all things motor racing and other things that we find amusing at the time. We'd love you to join us if you would like to make a contribution, ask any questions, or comment about any of the issues we're talking about this week. Then by all means go online, either on the YouTube chat or here on Facebook as well. We have some new software we tried out last week and it seemed to work pretty well. So we're going to give it another go once again. So joining me this week, Richard Outram is joining us this weekend, and he's just come back from Challenge Bathurst. If you go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, you can see some in-car footage of Richard driving his Hyundai Excel at Mount Panorama, and we'll talk a bit about that adventure. We'll talk about Formula One, Sergio Perez's victory on the weekend, the great performance by George Russell, but the very not great performance by the Mercedes pit crew, and also Nicholas Mazepin has got himself into trouble already. Hasn't even started his Formula One career yet, and already there are people calling it for it to be over. So lots of things happening. Sandown happening this weekend as well. We might talk about that. The Shannon's Fest. I think they're calling it the Festival of Motorsport, sort of a two-day event happening this weekend, but unfortunately no spectators again, and lots of covered hoops to jump through for those of us who are turning out there. But as we said, the guys are with us, and let's start with Formula One. And congratulations to Sergio Perez for his victory last week in the Sakhir Grand Prix. Well deserved. Great. He's had a terrific year all up, apart from his break for his own COVID situation. But Pete, if things go according to what we're told at the moment, this coming weekend at Abu Dhabi will be his last Formula One race for the foreseeable future. I mean, surely Red Bull or somebody has got to take him for next year now, surely.
The only reason I can think of that Red Bull's holding out is because of the tie connection with Alex Albon and Red Bull. Red Bull being a tie company. That's the only reason I can think of them holding out. But then that's not a very good reason, because if he's not up to form, they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, well, I don't think I don't know how much money or if he's bringing in any money at all. I don't think he's bringing in any great amounts of money. So, and once again, Perez has. Perez does come with money. I mean, he comes with Mexican millions behind him. So, if it shouldn't be a problem for Red Bull. They shouldn't really need money. But the bottom line is, he's in form at the moment. He's in fantastic form. He's now in race-winning form. He's finally broken through for his first Formula One win, and you would assume that he's going to be a bigger threat and a bigger challenge for Max Verstappen. Perhaps that's, and as we said last week, perhaps that's why they're not bringing in Sergio at this stage, because perhaps young Max is feeling a little bit fragile.
Yeah, and he had trouble when Daniel Ricciardo first arrived there. He had trouble coping with Daniel.
Yeah, I think he's one of those drivers, like a bit like Michael Schumacher was, and possibly even Lewis Hamilton's in the same boat, where they very much want to, they want to be the number one driver. They are the number one driver. They want the attention on them. They want all of the resources on them, and they clearly want the situation where you've got a clear number one and a clear number two. This idea of having sort of two co-number one drivers and have them sort of just battle it out for themselves. I don't think Max is don't think Max in particular is very happy with that sort of thing. I don't think he likes the pressure of having a teammate in the same sort of car who actually outqualifies him.
Yeah.
So Richard, what did you have? Did you have a look at the Grand Prix, or what do you think of the situation?
Oh, it was good. I mean, George Russell going to the front just the moment he steps into Lewis's car, I thought I'd said pretty much that the car's on the money, and whoever hops in it is probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the problem is, I think that the funny thing is that you've got all of the large number of Lewis Hamilton critics out there who are saying, "Well, this goes to prove it. It's the car. It's only the car. He's nowhere near as good as. I mean, the guy's won 7 world championships. He's won obviously the car is important. We know that, but I mean, it might win him 1 or 2 world championships. But when it's won him sort of as many as it has, and when he's sort of just dominated over the years." No, he's a great driver, and people really should acknowledge that. But you've got to have the tools, no matter how good or bad you are. And he's certainly, and the Mercedes is quite clearly the car to beat. I mean, we all knew that.
Do we think that now that Ricciardo is going to move to McLaren, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. McLaren's going up. Do you think he's got on backing the right horse?
Well, I mean, they'll have the Mercedes engine next year. I mean, they've done pretty well. It seems to me that the chassis is pretty good. So you would hope that with the Mercedes engine in it, they would at least get to the same sort of level, the same sort of stage that Racing Point are at the moment. So it's hard to say. I mean, I would have thought that you would want to be with a manufacturer, but I think at the time Daniel may have been a bit concerned about just how wedded into Formula One Renault actually were. Considering that they weren't performing all that well, and the company's not as flash as it used to be, and they've always got that thing in the back of their mind that at some stage, and they're going back to Le Mans. I mean, they're going to be in the World Endurance Championship and at Le Mans next year under the Alpine brand. And I think that they, and obviously in Formula One under the Alpine brand from next year. So I think that Daniel was looking perhaps long term and going, long term I might end up being better at McLaren than I am at Renault, because as we know, major auto manufacturers can be fickle.
Very. So what's happened to Ferrari?
Well, they're doing they're doing their quite regular sort of self-destruct mode. They're sort of back into the the chaos of as they were sort of Ferrari need really strong leadership, and I don't think they've got it at the moment. And that's why I think like Vettel, you can hear the frustration in Vettel's voice, where he's actually trying from behind the wheel of the car. Half the time he's trying to sort of drag the team together, and guys, what are we doing? Why don't we do this? He's actually putting the strategy together. Yeah, that's it, telling him what to do, because it's like, guys, make a decision. But they did better last week, and Leclerc is clearly a really, really good driver as well. I mean, we've got so many talented young drivers coming through at the moment. Somebody that is coming next year, of course, is Nicholas Mazepin, and Mazepin, and he's as Brad Gordon is saying, not a good start for Mazepin with his video. I don't know. Has anybody actually seen the video? It got taken down. Yeah,
I've got taken down. But I haven't seen it.
Yeah, apparently it was it's so hard nowadays. I mean, what sort of passes for sort of acceptable behaviour. As far as I'm aware of it, he was in a car with a friend. I mean, and the girl involved, the woman involved, has sort of said, look, it was it was us fooling around. We're really good friends. Apparently, he's reached back and he's groped her breasts, and she sort of slapped him away and said, And so he's been accused of, all sorts. And she's saying, look, it was a bit of fun. It was a bit of fun. A couple of friends. I mean, we this is the sort of thing that we do. But now, I mean, there are people calling for his head already. I mean, the guy hasn't even sat behind the wheel, but he does. He does have a colourful history. I mean, he's a very, very, very rich young man, and he behaves like a very, very rich, self-important, over
Like James
entitled man. What was that?
I always wanted to put my hand up for that role.
Like James Hunt. He's in the James Hunt mould.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, people sort of said, like James Hunt and Barry Sheen and all that, they were considered, back in the 70s, they were considered legends, ladies' men. I mean, not just in motorsport, but I remember sort of in the days of cricket, Imran Khan and, the international playboy thing. And now it's like, it's that sort of behaviour is simply not allowed. And the team have said they're going to have censured him and have taught, and he's apologised. And he's going to have to. He's going to have to be very. He's going to have to be very careful. I mean, now that he's at the top level, he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny. And as I said, he doesn't have a good record. He's both on and off the track. He's done stuff on the track as well, which is not particularly good. Throwing the odd temper tantrum, and there's really no place for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you have to remember these days that brutalising women is a very, touchy issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, as it should be, but I mean, as it said, it's the woman concerned has said, look, it was just us fooling around and having a bit of fun, but it's so difficult to say. It's the image that it portrays nowadays, and he's just got to realise that now that he's a Formula One driver, his what was acceptable a few weeks ago isn't acceptable or anymore, because people are going to take a lot more notice now. So anyway. The other thing that's come up is Brad saying, Toto Wolff saying he thought the Australian Grand Prix might be still at risk. I think it should be. They've announced today that they're actually asking a lot of the volunteer marshals, people involved, pit lane marshals, people in race control, scrutineering, not all of not flags, but anybody who might come into contact with drivers and international officials, basically to go into quarantine for 3 weeks. Over the period of time, a couple of weeks before, and then the week of the Grand Prix itself. Richard, I mean, you spent a lot of time as a marshal. I mean, how would you feel when it's a volunteer position and suddenly they say, oh, by the way, we'd like you to spend 3 weeks.
I really think it's damn hard doing the whole Grand Prix weekend. Oh, it's more than a weekend, and look, you're up at some ungodly hour. You don't get home to some ungodly hour. You're on your feet for 14 hours or something. And then you're going to go back to a hotel where you may or may not get the food you want. You're going to be confined in a room with what? And it's a lot to ask. Hell of a lot to ask.
Well, as you say, I mean, now they've got the situation on a Wednesday. They're coming in even earlier than they used to, because they've got that corporate stuff, and that really annoys me that you've had both Porsche and Mercedes who have basically taken over Wednesday now and use it as a big corporate day to take people for hot laps around the track in their latest cars, to sell cars. It's a commercial thing. They obviously pay a lot of money to the Grand Prix Corporation to make it happen, but the flaggies are expected to be there for that now, and it's that's not a motor racing event as far as I'm concerned. That's a corporate thing, and I would. I was amazed when I heard that the flaggies weren't getting paid for it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be turning up to do that day. Yeah, I can understand from Thursday on for the actual race meeting itself, but a corporate day for for people to go around and do fast laps in order to sell expensive cars to rich people. Yeah, I'm not. That's not. That's not happening as far as I was concerned.
But of course, they used to have a lot more marshals once upon a time. Now there's not that many, so they're going to have a lot to do over that weekend. Gee, imagine that. I mean, are they going to have to quarantine before or after, during, or both, or all three?
Yeah, well, they've said both of them. They've said sort of in the lead up. So they basically said you'll be expected to quarantine for 3 weeks. Now, what they've said is that there will be people will be quarantining in hotels, as our own Jeremy Cass said, who's a regular marshal from one of our in pit lane crew. He wants some more details. He's sort of quite interested, and quite prepared to do it. I think, providing, as he said, he can get he gets decent internet connection, so he can continue to do his work from wherever he is in the lead up. And also, as he said, hopefully, having a room by yourself, because you don't want to be trapped and sharing a room. It's like I said, when we go away when we go away and do stuff like Formula SAE and all the rest of it. The one thing that I insist on now is that wherever possible, everyone gets their own room, because we're adults now. We're not 10-year-olds, having a sleepover, bunking all down together, and like in the days of the scout troops and all the rest of it. You want your own space. You want and as Jeremy said, he snores the place down, and he wouldn't want to inflict that on there. So it's nice to know that there's 2 of us in the crew now who can, snore for Australia in terms of I mean, breakdancing is an Olympic sport now, so why not snoring? And if it comes, I'm your man, as many of you would know.
I met someone who could beat you.
Oh,
you wouldn't believe that.
Lordy.
Yeah, that's it. Considering, as I said, I've been thrown out of hotels, thrown out of a hotel in France for 2:00 in the morning, and Monsieur, I'm sorry, we must ask you to your snoring is keeping the whole hotel awake. We are getting there are many complaints, many complaints, Monsieur. But yeah, so that's that'll be interesting. Be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. I think Toto has sort of got because basically the Formula One guys at the moment are saying that because they're at the moment they're being expected to go into quarantine as well, and they're basically saying, and they're just saying no. They're saying, we'll come, we'll be in the bubble, we'll arrive, we'll do the race, and then we'll fly out. We won't, we will be as safe as possible. But this idea that they will come in 2 weeks earlier and have their own 14 days of quarantine before the race happens, they're far from happy about, and I don't think they will do it. So it really will come down to
I don't think it will work.
No, I don't think they'll be happy about it. And it's the same for the tennis. I mean, they're saying the same thing for the tennis, and a lot of the world's leading tennis players are saying, I'm sorry, we'll turn up and we'll stay isolated, we'll stay in the bubble, but we're not coming in 2 weeks earlier and being locked up for 2 weeks, because they're saying that they can't even practice. So the tennis players are saying, no, we're not coming out, spending 2 weeks locked in a Melbourne hotel room, and then be expected to go out and play a Grand Slam tournament without any decent practice or any lead up tournaments.
Or any exercise.
Yeah, so I mean, they probably got access to the hotel gym within reason, but it's not the same as it's not the same as doing laps, and it's not the same as playing sets of tennis on a especially under the hot conditions. They're going to be coming from the middle of most of them are coming from the middle of a European or American winter into the height of an Australian summer, where it's February, and it's even because they're delayed it, so February's even hotter than January often, and they get out and suddenly walk out their first day on the court and it's 42 degrees. Yeah. They're not going to be happy about that.
No, and I think the Grand Prix, is waiting to see what happens with the tennis before they do anything much, because I'm getting, emails saying register your interest, and they said that tickets would go on sale sort of this month, but it's, it's starting to get very quiet.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the next thing in terms of how many spectators will be able to. I see they've announced. I think it was today that they're going to let 30,000 in for the Boxing Day test. But that's in the MCG, and so looking at that, they could easily get 30 or 40,000 into Albert Park. I suppose it depends on whether they have allowed general admission as well, or whether they sort of say, no, you can only come in if you've got a grandstand seat, and we're going to limit, we're going to space everybody out. So I'm not sure how many people are going to be accommodated in those grandstands.
That's earlier when restrictions started to be eased. That's what I heard that they were going to do. They were going to have grandstands only, really, and no general admission. But smaller grandstands and more grandstands, but smaller ones that could be spaced out.
Yeah, I mean it's all about space, but I mean it's outside, and it's so hard, especially at the moment. I mean, and people are so confused about what's going on now. I mean, I'm wandering around here, and half the people have got masks on, and half of them don't. And there was arguments tonight. Just before I came back here, I went from a walk and wandered down to the local shopping centre, and there were a couple of people down there, and they were saying, "Oh, could you put your mask on?" No, we don't need to put the mask on anymore. It's all over and it's all finished, and so. I think people are confused at the moment because some places, I mean, the cricket's on tonight down home, and they've got I think New South Wales are opening up to full spectator numbers at the cricket. They had the one day international on Tuesday night, and there were no restrictions at all. It was come one, come all.
How is Formula One, the Melbourne GP, going to organise how many people are going to go? What are the concession stands? They make a loss every year. How much loss are they prepared to cope with?
Yeah, well, that is an interesting point, because the obviously they're not going to have, but I think if you had a look at the figures, it's probably safe to say that they probably don't get that big a slice of income from the spectators. It will be a lot, but when you consider Formula One is very sort of self-contained, and they will lose out on the corporates. If they can get the corporates in, that'll be what they want, and I think that's one of the things they're talking about with the cricket as well. Certainly the MCC, I think, were saying, we're not fussed that much. I mean, we want to get as many people in as possible, but we need to get our members in, and we need to get the corporates in, because the corporates are the ones paying the really big dollars, and they're the ones that are spending the money on sponsorship. I think I saw somewhere in America that there was a situation with IndyCar where the sponsor just dropped out. They said, unfortunately, we can't have you and your staff and your clients and your guests at the track because of the COVID-19. And they went, oh, okay, well, in that case, we'll just pull out our sponsorship, because if we can't turn up, we don't see the value in it. So,
well, I could run three Hyundai races and charge them exorbitant money, and we'll all turn up.
Yeah, well, that's it. Paul's saying, drove up to Wakefield for the Superbikes last weekend. Masks on, no masks in New South Wales, and had to mask up upon driving back into Victoria. Well, I mean, if you went out to the Double A, if you went out to Sandown a couple of weeks ago, there weren't any masks out there either. I mean, at the Double A, and that's not going to be the case this week at Sandown. As I said, the difference between the Double ASA meeting was, I mean, yes, they took they took precautions, and there was hand sanitizer everywhere, and there were signs up saying, but I mean, they weren't sort of like over the top about it. There's no doubt about it that this weekend out at Sandown for the Shannon's National Series, they're taking it very seriously. I've got like in order to get in for Saturday and Sunday to do some filming there are QR codes and forms have had to be filled out, and there'll be temperature tests, and there'll be all sorts of. And once you go in, if you go out, you don't get back in. You have to go through the whole procedure again if you want to go back in. So, and there's no food, there's no concessions there. So all the marshals, all the media, all the drivers, everybody concerned have been told, bring your own food and drink because there'll be absolutely nothing available. Whereas there was at Sandown a couple of weeks ago, and we were surprised. I mean, we got there and there was. The caravan, the food caravan in the pits was open, and there was a coffee stall there. So, they were sort of a lot more casual and a lot more relaxed about it. And it was a great day out. I mean, I will say that I'll get hit on the head again from the people at Motorsport Australia, but the Double ASA guys, they do a fabulous job of running their meetings in terms of the friendliness of it all, and just how keen they are to help everybody and to make it a really good day out and a really good thing. So Paul's saying so. Yes. Wakefield had its own QR code system. I don't know, Paul. Was it their own QR or the New South Wales one? Because New South Wales have introduced their own QR system. But I don't know what happens if you turn up and you don't have. Like I've got lots of older friends in particular who don't have smartphones. They don't have mobile phones at all. So I don't know what happens when they turn up. But so that's the situation. That's the situation for this weekend. At I got my QR code emailed to me just before we started on the show. So they said, like when you turn up, you'll have to take the QR code with you, and that'll be scanned in on the day, and basically says that yes, you can be here and all that. We still don't know whether we're going to be able to film on the trackers as well, because that's not because of COVID. That's because of the increasing problems we have with insurance, which is going to be a big problem, a really big problem for a show like ours, because we do have public liability insurance through RMITV, but because of the situation at the moment, we're not sure where that stands. Right now, and it's there's nobody can get into the office, and nobody's really there to sort of answer our questions with there. So, but anyway, so that's what's happening the weekend. I think we got it's looking like a pretty good meeting. There's a few regularity trials and stuff. The MG Car Club are running it, so it's a bit heavy with sort of MG and British invited sports cars thing. But there's also the Porsche Carrera Cup Challenge and a few other few other categories there running around. So speaking of running around and meetings, Richard, if people are on the YouTube channel, they can watch you in action at Mount Panorama for Challenge Bathurst. Tell us about that. Tell us about what was it like up there, and tell us about, because that's obviously something you've wanted to do for a long, long time.
I recall watching Bathurst when it was a half-hour slot on World of Sport with Ron Casey. I don't think anyone remember that. That was 50 years ago. I can't believe it. And every time I wanted to get a car, the rules would change, the categories would change, something would change. I wouldn't be able to do it. So eventually it happened. I was just a weeny bit nervous. Expectations, of course, on yourself. And Saturday was stinking hot. And I thought, I'll expire. But no, I put enough gear in the car. But I was pretty slow. I mean, really needed a sundial to measure my time around there. But I got a bit quicker. I still got a long way to go to be comfortable in the car, know what it does, where its limits are. But yeah, the first time through the dipper and the S's, you just go, ooh. And you see all these licorice straps leading up to the concrete wall and these nasty marks of different scratches of various cars on it. And you go, yeah, don't want that to be me. But Conrod, unbelievable coming up to the chase. You're approaching the chase on Conrod. You've got the steering wheel firmly in your hand. You're not moving it, and the car walks backwards and forwards across the track. And you go, "Wow, never seen that before." Getting around the kink up to the chase, it's just mind blowing. If you get the chance to have a crack at it, yeah, it's worth every cent.
Of course, you've got all that sort of, that legendary downforce that comes with the
yes, that's right.
The aerodynamic qualities of the Hyundai Excel. But that's the advantage. That's the
slick
advantage.
tires without the blocks which move around.
Yeah, the high tech Penske shockers and all the rest of it. But that's the advantage of that category, isn't it? Because that category has now opened up the possibility for people like you. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like you've got millions, squirreled away somewhere, I'm sure. Yep. But you're not sort of you're not Betty Clemenco. So this is an opportunity for a lot of average people to get there. And as Brad's pointed out, as we got up there, Bathurst at Easter, 7 categories, that's for the 6 hour, which is now sort of, I think, in some respects, it's taken the place of the 12 hour as being sort of, the Bathurst for the rest of us. I mean, now that supercars have sort of taken control of the 12 hour, although they've taken control of the 6 hour as well. But it seems to be that the Bathurst 6 hour now is the one that is sort of the lower key event, the one that sort of as I said, the rest of us can go to and still sort of still camp there and still get an entry in and get our cars accepted, whether it's an Excel or whatever. So if I don't know, I haven't seen I did see the press release, but I didn't really have time to read it. But if the Excels were up there again, would you do it again, or is that sort of
Look, in a heartbeat. I mean, the main reason I do it is that you put the GoPro in the car and you face it backwards because the look on my guide dog's face is hilarious when you go through the chase. I was still watching last year's Hyundai races, and bloody hell, they're good. Damn, they're quick. I mean, I got a lot of catching up to do.
Well, a lot of them are throwing some resources, some big resources behind it. The quality of, that's the thing that's, like really impressed me is when you look at the top running cars, the quality of the presentation, the quality of the engineering. It's obviously really tightly controlled, but you can tell you can tell a well built car when you see one, and a lot of those cars are like absolute mint condition, and they've obviously put a lot of time and effort into maximising the little bit. And when you've got a category like that, it really is. It's like, well, as you'd remember, Richard, Claude Rowell talking about those little things at Le Mans, like the rivets on the end plates of the wings. It's like people said, that would mean now it's a rivet. I mean, that would mean nothing. And he showed us. I mean, he did the figures in front of us, the formula, which showed that basically all of those rivets, when you added it all together, was the equivalent of having about an A4 sheet of metal, sort of like facing in terms of the drag. So it's those tiny little things that can make the difference. So it looked like you were taking the kink flat out.
Yeah. I had the foot buried, but I don't know enough about the setup. So I was ending up still sitting in the middle of the track. I was trying to get over to the right, but I've still got more to do with the setup so that it works better. I think I should be running a softer rear sway bar because it was for a Hyundai, it was like neutral to a bit oversteer. That's pretty unusual. So perhaps I should soften the back a bit. But wow, what a trip to arrive in a Hyundai at about 2:20 into the chase. That's great fun. I mean, it's like how can I explain? Like not all of us have a lot of money. I mean, you were saying how good the cars are. I was getting mine dyno tune, and Jason Barguano walked in, and he's talking about some of the stuff they built for the car and thrown away. 15 exhaust systems, umpteen bits and pieces, maybe $20,000 worth of stuff thrown on the ground. And I'm going, wow, I haven't spent that on the whole car.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly changed. I mean, if you remember, like, way back, because we were sort of, when the whole thing was, came to Victoria. I mean, it started off I think it was in Queensland where it started off. But when they were talking about bringing it to Melbourne, I mean, Bruce was in on the show in the studio and was talking about building a car for $7,500, which is sort of around the sort of cost you'd be looking at. There's stories around now that people are spending $7,000 just on a motor.
They were getting them out of the wreckers. They'd trash one in practice. They'd go down to Jolly Roger or whatever it was, grab one, throw it in the car and go, hey, I'm going a second faster in practice. That is not happening now. I believe I was just looking at Belinda, who was there in the beside me. She's got all her airbox insulated to keep the air cool as it goes into the motor. The detail in which they're running it like a mini supercar too, with lots of information, lots of data from previous races. And now, you've got Triple Eight building a car? They're saying, first of all, they said it was 30,000. Then I heard something about 60,000. And I'm thinking to myself, does that include the shocker dyno? Does that include the chassis rigidity testing? Somehow I don't think it does.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's been such an incredibly popular, category. As Paul saying, 53 XLs were at the AMRS meeting a couple of weeks ago. They had a 1 hour enduro there, and you had people like Ben Grice, coming down from Queensland. You've got people coming from all over Australia for these major meetings now, and even just at the state level. I think the last time I heard, and you'd probably know, Richard, that there was over 150 log-booked cars in Victoria alone.
Yeah, I would have been. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more. I was in the main street of Warragul just yesterday, and here's a two-door XL someone's dragged out of the weeds, because it still had the weeds on the car, and one would probably say it's going back as parts or a car to be built up somewhere from someone in the Warragul area.
Probably
so
another
there's
one.
going to be probably another one.
Probably another Barguana car because he's in the Warragul area. So yeah, I mean, Steve Johnson's son is running one. They just become so popular, and that's going to be the problem. I mean, they're a victim of their own success because, and I think it was pointed out in terms of the wreckers and all the rest of it. The wreckers were sort of just letting them go for almost nothing, and now they've sort of gone. Hang on a second. These things are valuable now. I mean, they get them in. I heard one wrecker saying that basically they lasted no more than 2 days. As soon as they put it online and said that we've got a straight, if you like a reasonably straight or a straight Excel in reasonable condition is disappearing like that, and they're getting good money for them now. They're also becoming like much more popular as a road car. I mean, you've got your second car, which you built, you basically got for spares, and you're using that as a road car now, aren't you?
They're a very good car, actually. They're very cheap to run. Okay, I've got the Alpha there. I've told you before. Need a new drive shaft. One second-hand drive shaft, $200. I have to go to Bayswater to get one. If I got my car and I thought, drive shafts are a bit loose, hop on the internet, delivered free, 2 asymmetrical drive shafts, 2 brand new ones in the box, $154. What do I got? 3 new door handles, $15 each. I can put the car together, have a whole lot of spares for a song.
Yeah,
racing.
That's it. I've seen also, like, because of they become so popular. I've seen a few people who have now taken the Excel and have sort of said, yeah, I mean they're quite a fun little car, and we can turn this into a good little road car now. I mean, like I've got the follow on to the successor, the spiritual, the successor to the Excel in the Hyundai Getz, and they're becoming really popular as a little performance car. I'm on a Facebook page where there's a lot of people who are getting hold of of cheap Getz now and modifying them. And yeah, they're surprisingly good performance when you have a look at the specs of the engines in these things. Like imagine going back to the 60s and the 70s and the early 70s, and you go through and you say twin overhead camshaft, fuel injection. That's the sort of thing that used to go what with Lotus Cortinas or that sort of thing. It was like that's so exotic.
You can do meeting after meeting, $6.5 grand, $6.5 grand, $6.5 grand, boom, boom, never misses a beat. And what's going to make a big difference? They've put up a shock attender, and the Hyundai class Victoria is going for super shocks. But I already run super shocks. Well, I'm sorry, you've still got to buy the new ones, or you can get yours revalved. But would you, for 2/3 the price or half the price, you might as well get a new set. What happens to my old ones? Well, they're going to go on the street car, aren't they? So I'm going to have a $3,000 pair of shocks hanging off my car I go to pick up the groceries in.
Yeah, so I suppose there's always that to it, but yeah, I like I was talking about this with Declan Kirkham. Declan did some work on my car the other day there, and we were talking about the categories. There's a category in Thailand which is called super compact, and that's basically for sort of cars, new cars or newish cars under, I think it's about under 1.6 liters, and the racing is fantastic. But they are modified; they're a lot more modified than the XLs are. But they really put on some great racing. They sound fabulous. The racing's really good. The racing's a bit like sort of, if you can imagine, sort of really good Formula V racing, but with a whole bunch of sedans. And there's sort of Mazda 2s and Toyota Yaris and that sort of Ford Fiestas, those sorts of things running around. And looking really, really good. They're a great little category. So these sort of affordable cars can to put on some great racing, and the Excels are the Excels are great, but as has been pointed out that by Paul, they will become like the HQs. I mean, the HQs now, they started as cheap racing. Well, now they're collector's items, as HQs, as road cars. People are looking at getting those race cars now because they're worth a lot more as a road car, and they want to turn them back into road cars. So,
I don't see it. I don't see a time where XLs will sort of be the HQs of the Hyundai world somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that, but I mean, like, have you seen the prices that things like Datsun 120Ys are going for now in good condition? Toyota Corollas. Like there was, I saw like in I think it was on car sales, a Toyota, obviously fully restored and in absolutely mint condition, but I think it was like something like a 73 Toyota Corolla, and it was going for $18,000. I mean, you could have got, people would give those away. In fact, I actually knocked one back years ago because I didn't have anywhere to put it. But someone said, "Oh, I've got an old Corolla at home," and it was like a really early model, that sort of slant nose, sort of squareback model from the early 70s, late 60s, and they were just giving it away because it was just, it's just taking up space, and it's like it's not worth bothering with. It's just not worth anything, and now I'm thinking, geez, if I'd have had the room to have taken it and put it away somewhere, I'd probably pick it. Even the condition it was in, I'd probably pick up, get about 4,000 or 5,000 for the damn thing. Yes,
even the KB laser.
Yes, well, there's a case in point. As Paul's saying, how many HQs were trashed at the Thunderdome? So, I mean, even on the run, I mean. They've cleaned up that. Remember, I mean, whether it was at the Thunderdome or in circuit racing, when the HQs came out, it was always, "Oh, here it comes." I mean, there won't be a straight panel in the whole field. They're very well behaved now, and as Paul pointed out, at Sandown for the XLs, I don't think anybody put a scratch on them. And that was over a 1 hour. That was in a 1 hour endurance race. I mean, everybody's very well behaved these days. The days of Biff and Bard seem to be well and truly gone.
Yeah.
And they had
sorry, Pete.
They had HQs in the Queensland leg of the supercars for support races, and there was only one accident that I saw, and they were very well behaved.
Yeah, I think there were some. Now those panels aren't easy to replace nowadays. Not like they used to be. So that's interesting. But but it'd be interesting to see what happens next year. So Richard, as far as you're concerned, have you looked at the calendar for next year? I mean, what are your plans for next year?
No, I haven't actually. In fact, I missed. I'm going to miss next weekend's round at Sandown because. Was it back in July, August? I had over $3,000 outstanding in entry fees for races I didn't know whether I'd get to go to. So I thought, I'll hang off. This is $700 for one day, and I'm thinking, I think I'll hang off it for a few weeks and see what happens about the Challenge Bathurst. And then the Challenge Bathurst goes ahead. I forgot all about this meeting. So suddenly it turns up, and I go, why didn't I enter? Then I had to search the memory and go, oh, that's right, it was bloody expensive, and I didn't even know if I was going to get a run there. So I thought, let's wait a while and see what happens. Well, I forgot about it, didn't I?
Yeah, so it's I think we're sort of looking at next year. The thing is that everybody is anything that comes in terms, as we were saying with the Grand Prix, anything in terms of calendar for next year is still a touch tentative. Although I think we're reasonably, touch wood, I think we're reasonably comfortable at the moment. I think it seems to be relatively under control. But with more internationals coming back in, not just for the Grand Prix and for the tennis and the cricket and all that sort of thing. As we're saying, we don't know what's happening with the studio in at RMIT University because the university are not in a position to open up again. I haven't heard. The last I heard is that they haven't got definite plans or a definite date as to when everything's going to be opened up in at the city campus in at RMIT, because they want the international students back. And New South Wales has pushed the international students back. I mean, there's a whole bunch of Australians stranded overseas who want to come back home for Christmas or all that, and it's like, yeah, that's all well and good, but we need to get rich Asian students into here because they're keeping our university system alive.
Yeah, well, you'd think you want to put Australian students into the universities, but I might just be old-fashioned.
Yeah, well, that's it. Australian students don't pay up front, several $100,000, and we've had lots of international students as crew members on the show, and when they talk about sort of, some of them talk about how much their parents are paying to keep them in Australia and to do these courses. I mean, it's mind-boggling the amounts of money, and a lot of them it's just, as one of them said to me, he said, well, you think that's a ridiculous amount of money, but to do it in our own country or to go over to somewhere like America, America is often their first choice, but the cost over there is, like even compared to Australia, is ridiculously high. That's why a lot of them are going to Canada now. Canada's taking a lot of people from us, but obviously Australia's a little bit closer to home, and it's in similar time gone. Winton, Paul's talking about Winton's calendar. SAE in December, as we missed out on Formula SAE this year, so hopefully that looks like it's back on next year. Formula V Nats, that's always a huge meeting. The last time I saw them in Victoria was Phillip Island a couple of years ago, and I think they had about 72 cars or something there. They've got a 12-hour super. Yeah, so a really packed calendar up at Winton, including an XL Enduro. So there's one for you, Richard, an XL Enduro. Yep. Now the point is, you're going to need a co-driver for that. I mean, have you got anybody in mind? Hint, hint.
How's your back, Brett?
Yeah, that might be. The medical might be a problem on many counts, let alone my back. And now the fact that I can't sort of feel one of my legs is also probably a problem. The good news is it's the left leg, so that only sort of is going to, and I couldn't left foot brake at the best of times anyway, so. But I
can just say, I dive out the car, you dive in. I've got to have the camera on that one.
I quite clearly I don't dive anywhere. I mean, so my diving days are well and truly over, and they weren't very long to begin with. But so the XL Enduro, we can we might have to put something out for on the show for see what we can. See if we can get you sort of a big name co-driver from our friends. We've got a few supercar friends out there and a few internationals. If you our mate John Hindhoff from Radio Le Mans, I know he'd be very keen. I mean, if we can find a sponsor to bring Hindy out, I'm sure he'd love to jump behind the wheel of an XL at Winton.
Well, I've been in discussions with people in the last couple of days, so you never know what could happen.
Well, so watch the hashtag watch this space.
Yes.
Okay, guys, I think we Peter, we got any more sort of any more Formula One or any news that you want to leave us with?
Well, the last I heard, Lewis Hamilton was still in doubt for this weekend at Abu Dhabi. So I don't know whether that means Stefan Van Dorn will get the job or George Russell again. And Roman Grosjean has said he won't come back. The doctors have told him it would be too risky.
Yeah, I think that's. I think so. That's basically sort of remain done as a Formula One driver for the foreseeable future. Well, it's good to see Toto Wolff has said, by all means, we'd love to have you sort of, test, get behind the wheel of our car and just, basically, if you're going to get out, you're going to be, get out of Formula One, it'd be good to have, sort of one last steer of the car without remembering your career sort of ending in a fiery crash. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, because the good news is, with what's happening with the World Endurance Championship and with IMSA and all the rest, there's a lot of opportunities opening up. I mean, for a start, as I said, Alpine, are racing at Le Mans. They've got the Rebellion cars and they're rebadging them as Alpine for next year. And as I think I said last week or the week before, I'd be really surprised if they're not sort of, dipping their toe in the water to look at running either a hypercar or a LMDH as Audi are doing. And Audi announced last week they were coming back to Le Mans with an LMDH car, so they were also going to run the IMSA WeatherTech North American Sports Car Championship, and going to do things like the Daytona 24-hour, the Sebring 12-hour, those classic American races. But they've also announced that they're going to be selling those cars or running them for customer teams. So that's really exciting. I mean, so we're not only just going to see sort of perhaps a couple of factory Audis back, but we might see however many, 2, 4, who knows how many customer cars at the top level of the sport again. So there's going to be lots of opportunities in sports car racing. It really has gone from the from the one extreme to another. I mean, it was looking a bit dodgy for a while, and then suddenly, everybody's talking about going back to Le Mans again. So with the 100th anniversary coming up and the LMDH, regulations, which are really cheap, there. But as Paul's pointing out, Richard, you've got up until November to get your drivers sorted out for there. So there's plenty of time. So yes, we shall follow that with interest. So I think that's I sort of think that wraps us up for this week, guys. Stuart not with us. Stuart was up all night doing office hours in under American time. But I think he also stayed up to watch SpaceX go up and come down, and boy, did it come down.
I didn't say it. I'll have to say it.
Earth-shattering kaboom.
Yes, we got our
nothing like a big bang.
It was a big bang. But it was amazing to see that thing take off. I mean, as I said, it looked like a flying wheat silo. I mean, it was just this massive thing, and it's like that. Surely that's not going to get off the ground, and it got off the ground. It basically did. It was an absolutely perfect flight. The landing was the only thing.
Yeah, it was a bit. It wasn't exactly parallel to the ground either. So
no, they had it. So yeah, I mean, there's still some bugs to work out, but the fact that I mean and also, as I pointed out to Stuart online, the quality of the footage was the best I've ever seen. It was absolutely crystal clear all the way up and and literally all the way down. So so if you haven't seen it, go on to the SpaceX YouTube channel and go there. Paul's pointing out trucks are probably more my style, and they're back at the. I'd probably still have trouble getting into a truck. Actually, the last time I jumped into a truck was about 6 months ago, and I got up, but once again, getting down again was a bit of a problem. As I sort of made that long step down and hit the ground, the back went, no, you shouldn't be doing this. But anyway, let's. Have a look at SpaceX. You can't go out of town. We did offer, as I said online, to live streams. We were quite keen to go out and do a basic live stream, a few cameras, 2 or 3 cameras, perhaps 4 cameras if we could muster it for that. But they said thanks, but no thanks. So. Yeah, so unfortunately, you won't see that, and I'm not sure with whatever I'm shooting on the weekend. I'm not sure when you're going to see that. I've got some computer problems at the moment, and yeah, I think over the next few days a new computer might be coming in, and yeah, so a bit of a delay in that. We've also got footage from the AMRS. Then we've got the story on Perry Spiridi's new Di Tommaso Mangusta, which is an absolute weapon of a car, fabulous looking car. So if you've obviously heard of the Pantera. We've seen a few of them, but I don't think we've ever seen a Mangusta before, and we're seeing one now. It was a great looking car. As Perry pointed out, they were essentially sort of like under the skin. They're pretty much a GT40 of the time.
Oh,
So
okay.
so really good car. And we've got some fabulous in the garage sort of footage of that with some of its clothes off. So that's really nice. We've also got stories on a couple one of the Thunder Sports cars, one of the Vic sedans, and some Formula Ford stuff. So that's all coming, and I'll try and get to that as soon as possible. But I've been a little bit busy, a little bit preoccupied with other things over the last couple of weeks. One of them being the fact that I was half blind, but despite the fact that I'm wearing the glasses, I can actually start to see again now. So that's good news. So okay, we'll say so. Thanks for joining us. Remember, if you'd like to take part, if you'd like to join the panel and be like Richard and jump in front of the camera and make a contribution. We've got spaces available under the circumstance. So yes, drop us a line, and you can have your say as well, or join us here either on the Facebook page or on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Quality is probably better on the YouTube channel. I'd push you over there. Remember, if you go to the YouTube channel, you can see Richard's in-car footage from Challenge Bathurst. And as I said, when you go there, please like and subscribe. It's really important. I mean, to keep the channel on there, to keep YouTube sort of promoting the thing and all that. It needs sort of regular people coming in and saying, hey, yeah, we're enjoying that. Just a quick click to say you like it means a lot to us. Okay, so we will see you hopefully next week on Full Course Yellow for another chat. But until then, thanks for there. If I can. Just get back to my page there so I can press the button that says end broadcast, which I'm going to do in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.